If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump, so for the first 42 minutes, we don't talk a whole lot about fitness, but we do have some fun conversation. Here's what we talked about. We started out by talking about my Health IQ life insurance quote. There's some interesting information in there. Now, they did give me the best quote that I could get. Doug actually brought up some other numbers.
Thank God you're healthy, Sal.
They crushed them. Health IQ specializes in bringing life insurance to fit and healthy people. So if you work out a lot, that's the place you want to go. To take their quiz to see if you can get a great rate, go to healthiq.com/mindpump. Scroll to the bottom of the page for the quiz. Then we talked about this interesting article that I read that's talking about the placebo effect, how it really works, and the fact that it seems to be getting stronger, which is kind of weird, but also interesting.
It's all in your mind.
Facebook is investing in local news. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. Then we talked about the difference between working remotely and productivity. Like, are people more productive when they work away from work?
In their jammies or in their business suit?
Or should they be here at work, Taylor? Yeah. Then we talked about Ned.
Specific.
Hemp oil company that produces full spectrum cannabinoid-based hemp oil products for people. It's a huge hit with our fans. People are repurchasing the products at high rates because they love them.
It's good stuff.
Now, Ned is one of our sponsors, so we do have a discount for you. You got to go to the website, though. HelloNed, HELLONED.com/mindpump. You'll get 15% off your first purchase. Then we went into the fitness portion of this episode. The first question was, look, when people squat, sometimes they shift a little bit to one side or to the other. How do you address that? Like, how do you fix that? What are some of the things you should look at?
Call it the gangster lean.
The next question, this one came from a personal trainer. The national certification, NASM, likes to emphasize the importance of starting people off with a stabilization phase, helping them control their body, moving them through muscular endurance or muscle building, and then moving them to strength. But many of our MAPS programs seem to start with the strength phase. Are we crazy or are we right? Find out in that part of this episode. The next question, this person wants to know what our typical work day looks like, so we kind of break down what we do during the day. It involves a lot of eating and pooping. Yeah. And the final question, who were our greatest mentors in our lives? Also, this month, MAPS Anabolic is 50% off. This is our flagship foundational muscle building, metabolism boosting, strength building program. You just got to go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and use the code RED50, RED50. I'd also like to talk about our other MAPS programs. If you're somebody who's bodybuilding focused or bikini competitor focused, you want to sculpt your body like those types of athletes, you want to check out MAPS Aesthetic. If you're somebody that likes to work out in the gym with non-conventional exercises, you want to move like an amazing athlete, you like function over form, well, that's MAPS Performance. If you like to do different kinds of workouts, maybe strongman-inspired type of workouts, that's MAPS Strong. Our advanced bodybuilder program, that's MAPS Split. And then, of course, we have our correctional programs, MAPS Prime and Prime Pro. And then we offer bundles that put them together in different orders for different goals and discounts them all. You can find all of those at mapsfitnessproducts.com.
T-shirt time!
And it's T-shirt time.
Oh, it's the favorite time of the week right here.
So last week, if you recall, we had a very poor review week. This week, people made up for it. They did very well.
I told them, that's
Thank
why.
you, guys.
Exactly.
All right.
So we're getting out 8 shirts today.
Hooking them up.
Our iTunes winners are IG at the Dadcast, Swifty Alex, Brother Baron,
So swifty.
Podcasts Loot, and for Facebook we have Tyler Nestor, Cody Fair, Amanda Isaacson, Laura Silk Gasly. All of you are winners. Send the name I just read. Send your shirt size, your Instagram handle, and we'll get that shirt right out to you.
Hey, did you guys see yesterday I was getting my quotes for life insurance?
I sat through that whole process.
Did you?
Yeah.
So I learned a couple things.
Tell me.
So I did. Health IQ is our sponsor, right? And I wanted to get some quote because I already have life insurance. I got it a long time ago.
Give me some scary stats.
And I wanted to go through the process because this company is a little bit different. They specialize in helping in just ensuring fit and healthy people, so they give you better prices. And I didn't know. First off, the quiz that you take on their website actually weighs on your price. It's not just a hey, you passed the test.
It's not like a gimmicky thing.
No, they actually use that.
Oh, you lie.
No. What?
Oh, you lie?
That's not how I take tests.
No. Well, no. I honestly, I just thought it was a really smart gimmick to get leads.
No. You ready for this?
Yeah. Wow.
This is a real statistic that the guy told me. A high health IQ, which is what they refer to the test. So if you score high on
intelligence in health,
that through their own study is correlated with a 36% lower risk of early death.
Whoa.
So just by taking the quiz, which a lot of our listeners have already done.
Makes sense. Smarter people live longer.
Well, people who know about fitness.
You're interested in actually being healthy. I think that's like a component on its own.
Well, you remember when we took the quiz? You can't really fudge it. A lot of the questions were good. It wasn't bullshit stuff.
No,
you know what I mean?
They were challenging.
Yeah, like, is it good for you to exercise? It wasn't stupid shit like that. It was actually good questions.
I mean, none of us aced it. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think I missed one or two, right? And
some of it was old information, though.
Maybe.
But I think they updated it.
Yeah, but you can't be you're not as smart as we are. You know what I mean? But anyway, so that weighs on the test. I did get my price, which I'll give you guys in a second.
I did not. I am blown away right now by this. I really thought that was just a sales gimmick.
Nope. They actually use that.
And I hate to say the word gimmick because I think it's really smart how they did that to capture leads. I did not know they actually weighed.
We just thought it was a marketing ploy.
Yeah, I did. I really did.
No, the guy literally told me because I got on the phone with them without taking the quiz. This time around, and the guy said, "Okay," he goes, "Here's your rates. And these rates will stay this way so long as you score good on your test, on your quiz, which you probably will." He's like, and I asked him, I said, "Does this actually weigh like on the price?" He goes, "Absolutely."
You know what was interesting to me, which I know you're probably going to bring up at some point, but you know how you go to any other insurance company, they're going to ask you if you're like a smoker.
Yes.
Tobacco smoker, like that plays a big factor in.
Huge factor, right?
Yeah.
Your prices go through the roof.
They're going to weigh that. So I guess a lot of insurance companies weigh like marijuana smoke in the same category.
So if you smoke cannabis, it's like you smoke tobacco and you'll pay way more.
Bullshit.
Hold on a second.
Right?
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Not Health IQ.
Nope.
Oh.
Yep. They're not Health IQ.
They're pro cannabis.
I wouldn't go that far, but the guy told me, he goes, "Yeah, it's not like cannabis. This isn't going to hammer your score. Like, this isn't like tobacco. It's not going to hammer your score like if you smoked
I thought that was very forward thinking on their part.
I think it's brilliant, to be quite honest.
Wow.
And the guy was kind of funny. We were talking about
favorite strains.
No. He asked me,
got our name wrong.
Yeah, he asked me.
Talk about
he
that.
goes, "What company do you work for?" And I said, "Oh, I'm actually one of the founders." Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "Well, what's the name of it?" And I said, "Mind Pump." Well, anyways, at the end of it, he's like, "I'm trying to look up your company."
Mein Kampf.
Mein Kampf Media. I'm like,
nailed it. Adam.
The Hitler book?
He really did.
He thought, he was like, how would we ever insure? Like, how would we ever do business with these people?
I'm like, you think I have a media company named after the book Hitler wrote? What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm some kind of racist psychopath.
Yeah. No.
Those are the moments when I think that our name isn't that good. Like, I think, like, man, what a great name we came up with. And then every once in a while I say to people, and people are like, huh?
Yeah, if you say it too fast, we're screwed.
I even point to my brain when I say mind, and then I point to my bicep when I say pump, and I feel like that's...
So you have to, like, motion it. Yeah.
So check this out. Studies will show that people who lift weights just twice a week have a 46% reduction in mortality. This is from Health IQ. So they weigh all forms of exercise, including and especially resistance training, which is good because we know that resistance training is so important. But anyway, here's my prices. And Doug, I want to see if were you able to pull up any competitor prices?
I was, yes.
Okay, so what did you get? Because and then I'll tell you what I got from Health. Okay, I'll tell you what I got from Health IQ first. Mm-hmm. I got a quote for $1 million policy and for a $500,000 policy, and this is for a 40-year-old male, myself, fit, healthy, doesn't smoke cigarettes, all that stuff.
Is that weird to say that?
What?
That you're 40 years old?
Not yet, dude. Okay, it's coming up. It's coming.
I'm just wondering.
But anyway,
I'm getting there.
So it was for $1 million policy, it was $97 a month, and for $500,000 policy, it was $51 a month.
Now, are you?
And it was 30 years. So
yeah, okay. That's what I ran too.
30 years.
Another company. I put you down as elite preferred.
Elite.
Because other companies do have good ratings for good health.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You really think he's elite?
I don't
for
see
sure.
I hope so.
Sal does.
I look elite.
Sal thinks
I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the numbers I got,
Self-proclaimed.
this is just one company that I work with.
New
It's a good
category.
company. $131 for $1 million.
Whoa, that's a huge
monthly.
difference.
And then $71 a month for the $500,000.
Health IQ is 97 versus 130 something.
So here's
that's
the
a
deal.
big difference.
Yeah.
Health IQ is able to go out to all types of different companies and get these best rates. So I work with just a handful of companies, and they're obviously not as competitive with their term life insurance.
Well, I'm sure glad I didn't get insured with you, Doug.
Well, you're pretty lucky you didn't.
I'm sure glad I didn't fucking get insured with you.
It's a good thing you have a day job. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Anyway,
so now are you on the fence on how much you want to do here? Because here's the thing.
I already have life insurance.
I know Rachel's pressing me, Katrina's pressing me here to do this thing. And I don't know how much money I want to leave for them. I don't want them to be really motivated for me to die.
For you to die?
Yeah.
Nobody can replace you, bro.
Like,
No amount of money
I wanna
can
leave 'em-
replace you, unless it's like $2 million.
I want to, yeah. I want to leave them just the right amount of money that they don't get fucked, and all my shit's covered, and I don't leave them in any debt or anything crazy like that, and they're okay, but not so much that they're like,
I think you want to leave an amount. So statistically speaking, when a person dies, the primary caregiver dies, the family, I think the statistic is something like 78% of the time falls into poverty. So
is it really?
It's huge.
Well, I mean, that happened to my family.
That is big.
It's it's terrible.
Wow.
It's terrible statistics, and I mean the cost of all of that, the grief, and then trying to get back on your feet. I mean, if you don't have, especially if you have a family, if you don't have life insurance, because it's not expensive. I looked at, and I'm almost 40. I looked at $500,000, $500,000, 50 something bucks a month. That's nothing.
No, you're right. And Doug, how does it work? So let's say my real dad had done a life insurance policy, and when he died, would my mom had got all the money right away, or does it get dripped over years?
You can choose, actually, as the policy owner, you can choose how it's distributed. Most people just do a lump sum. So if you have $1 million policy and your dad had passed away and he had that policy, you would have gotten a lump sum of $1 million.
And is it tax free?
And it's tax free.
Oh, okay. So you get the full $1 million.
You get the full $1 million. There's no taxes on that.
Can you imagine if they tax that? Ugh.
That's so. Yeah, that'd be so.
I'm surprised
dirty.
they don't.
I'm surprised they don't.
I'm surprised they don't either.
Yeah.
Dirty.
Yeah, I know.
That
anyway,
would be dirty.
So there was this article that I shared the other day on my story that I'm going to bring up right now because I've read the article now 3 times. That's how awesome this article is. The title of the article is "The Weird Power of the Placebo Effect Explained." I believe it was Jackie that shared this. She's on a winning streak right now. Enzo, you hear that, Enzo? Winning streak.
Maybe what we'll do is we'll do like
Our
a little
lead horse.
a little bonus for the
The best sharer.
yeah. Who gets the most? Like if we share it, obviously we like it, right? Because there's a ton on there we don't share. If at the end of the month we'll tally up whose studies and whose things that we shared the most on the show. Whoever does, we'll give them like a little cash bonus.
So we all know what the placebo effect is, right? This is where if people believe they're being helped by something, oftentimes they will be helped when they get tested. And this is especially true for pain, psychological disorders, stuff like that, where they'll do a test, they'll give patients a sugar pill, they'll tell them it's an effective drug, and there's for sure a statistic effect that people feel relief, even though there's nothing in the pill. And they're finding, so this first interesting statistic, which is crazy, people are finding now, researchers are finding that the placebo effect seems to be getting stronger.
Stronger.
So in 1996, on average, about 27% of patients reported pain reduction from a new drug in comparison to a placebo. So about 27% of the time, a new drug did better than placebo. 2013, now it's only 9%. So they're thinking that something strange is going on where the placebo response seems to be growing bigger over time. They're trying to figure out what's going on.
Getting closer to it being a hive mind.
They don't know. They don't know what's going on. But here's the interesting stuff. So some of the leading researchers on the placebo effect believe it's a family of overlapping psychological phenomena. So I'm going to kind of go over some of the stuff that they think ends up happening, at least some of the most important stuff. One is called confirmation bias, where you're given a treatment that's supposed to help you, and you start to change your focus on what you're paying attention to. So now you start paying closer attention to signs that you're getting better, and not really focus on the signs that you're getting worse. So studies show that actually has a powerful effect. There's also expectations and learning. So they've done studies where they'll hook up a study participant to an electric shock machine, and every time they give them a painful shock, they'll flash a red light on a screen, and for mild shocks, they'll flash a green light. By the end of the experiment, when the participants see the green light, they feel less pain, even when the shocks are increased for the green. So even after time, the green light will flash. They'll get just as powerful a shock as they did with the red, but they still feel it as lower because the brain has associated the green light with the lighter shock. And this is saying, hey, we're getting cues from other things on how we should respond to pain. But it gets even crazier. There's also something called pharmacological conditioning, which is kind of interesting, where they'll give people, for several days, they'll give them an actual drug that combats pain or helps with the symptoms of something like Parkinson's disease. Then what they'll do is without telling the patient, they'll switch it and give them a placebo. And they'll find that the placebo triggers a similar response in the brain as the real drug.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they take away the drug and their brain is still getting the same kind of a response, which is fascinating as hell.
Right.
Extremely fascinating.
Well, it reminds me, you brought up a study a while back about people that were going under surgery and how they actually did perform a surgery to remove certain organs, whereas the other patients, they basically, I don't know if they stitched them up or they made it, they went through the entire process of putting them under.
It was knee surgery.
Surgery.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what they did is people went in, they had chronic knee pain. They're going in for knee surgery for arthritis or whatever. The doctor, half of them got the actual surgery. The other half didn't. They just got cut and then stitched back up.
Right. But they fully believed that they were.
The results were the same.
Exactly the same.
The pain relief was the same.
I have a story pertaining to that, right? When I got my ACL, MCL, I tore it, right? And I had surgery for it. And after I came out, they actually videoed it. So I got a DVD to watch it. And after I watched it, my pain increased by like fucking tenfold, dude.
Yeah.
Because I watched them going in and like jabbing and cutting and like,
Oh my God.
and then
taking
like,
that saw like for like turkey.
so,
and
dude.
just,
So after that, like my knee hurt so fucking bad, and I swear it's because I never even shared that, but I was just like, that just came to mind when you're talking about this, how powerful the brain is. How I just came to. Of course, I was in pain. I wasn't not in pain, but man, after I watched the video, I swear it became 10x after that. It was just so painful.
Absolutely. So check this out, though. So a lot of times we think, oh, it's just a psychological phenomena, although we can't discredit that because the psychological phenomena is just as powerful as the physiological one, if not more powerful, okay, because that's your actual experience. But they did another study in 2012. This one tripped me out, where participants were given a sweet drink along with a pill that contained an immune suppressant drug. Okay, so they're drinking something sweet plus this drug that suppresses the immune system, so they can actually measure what's going on. Without telling them, and they were giving them this drink every day. So without telling them, they switched out the pill and gave them a placebo. Their bodies still showed a decreased immune response. So they had a physiological response to the sweet drink, as if the body associated the taste of sweet with the drug. Even though the drug wasn't there, they still had a depressed immune response.
It's programming, right?
It's-
they programmed them to think that was what, every time they took a pill, this is the response that I'm going to get.
Well, what we need to understand...
Because we're not even really here.
Wow.
Oh, shit. Went too far.
It's like, I just had some nice acid in my coffee this morning.
Yeah, no... I think what we need to always understand, and I think you start to understand this as a trainer when you work with people for years, is there's the physiological response and then there's your experience of it.
Yeah.
Your experience of it is just as important, because if you eliminate your experience from what's happening to your body, then it's as if it's not happening.
Yeah. Well, it's tough. I heard a really good podcast with this integrative specialist. So it's like he was a medical doctor, but also a functional medicine doctor, practitioner, who was trying to highlight the placebo effect and show like how powerful it is and how, science hasn't really specifically like in terms of like practices, like accounted for it as much as they probably could. And, incorporated that in terms of like bedside manner, in terms of like the type of language that doctors present to patients. Because think about that. Think about the psychology of when you get delivered, a death sentence versus, maybe there's like a fraction of a chance of, of recovery, but that's not high. They want to be realistic. And there's like a fine line there of like, do you be realistic or do you give them something about, well, like how do you present that to somebody to make them have that belief where they are going to recover and fight, or are they going to be completely, squashed in their momentum?
Well, it trips me out because the studies will show a physiological response as well. So can how you perceive something or feel you understand something affect how strong your body becomes, how it fights things off, how it heals? I mean, all these different things. I think it's brilliant and fascinating. And the thing about Western medicine is it's so focused on the measurable that we know to measure or understand how to measure, which is all the physiological responses. Like, okay, here's what's happening with chemicals. Here's how it's affecting your body's physiology. Here's the measurable stuff, that we forget the experience of the problem or whatever, and we ignore that part. And so we're missing out a huge segment of how you could potentially help someone, which is why I believe many times other forms of medicine are more effective especially for chronic illnesses. Like if you look at like Chinese medicine, for example, places an emphasis on that. They do. They'll tell you, you need to think differently, relax, meditate. Back in the day, it's funny too. Western medicine wasn't always like this. Back in the day, they used to prescribe that people would go off to these retreats or go off into the woods, or we recommend lots of fresh air, go camping or go. And they used to do this. People would actually go and do this. So I find this stuff fascinating. And as a trainer, you learn this so much that the person, how they perceive things, is just as important as actually what's going on.
It reminds me of ancient times. We have your witch doctor who actually probably did have some people that were healed because it really infused this belief of them being able to heal based off of whatever this ritual and practice was. But then we figure out what is actually happening, and then we get so involved with measurable data and empirical data and now we're realizing we need both of those components. Like they're both very powerful to that experience.
Yeah, one of my old clients was a surgeon, and he's like, he used to work on children, and then later on he just did adults, and he's like, the response to surgery for kids is so different than it is for adults. He's like, I'll operate on the kid, and because the kid doesn't know that they're supposed to be in all this pain or whatever, they'll want to get up and play and do all this other stuff.
Right.
He goes, then I'll have an adult who will be like, can I have a letter so I don't have to go to work for a month? And, and they're like, you're going to be fine, like in a week. And I need the strongest pain medicine. And
the man cold.
Yeah. Well, that's a real thing.
Yeah,
no,
it is real. And I'm sorry.
I
don't want to throw everybody under the bus.
Let's not go too far, Justin.
Yeah, all right, sorry.
That's actually what happened.
Sorry, guys.
But anyway, I thought it was fascinating. So what they talked about in this article was that the researchers are looking at incorporating the placebo effect in future treatments and how they can use it in a way to help us heal and feel better and get better.
Did you guys see the article in Hustle about Facebook investing $300 million in local news?
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean in local news?
The irony of that is like, what's her name? Is it Sheryl Sandberg or the original? Yeah. They talked against that for a long time. So Facebook was like anti ever being news. They didn't want to be a news platform. It's a social platform, and so they were really against that. But because of all the shit that's been going on, and I think they've been tanking for the last year or so. I think.
So what are they going to do? Start posting Facebook news?
Well, I don't know. That the big news is that they've invested in all these local news companies, and so I don't know if they're going to make a pivot over into that. So it's a good read. It's in the Hustle. It was I think yesterday's article.
Are they going to have their own sort of spin on it? Like, are they trying to really make sure it's like all vetted sources and it's not
know,
fake,
dude.
or is this more bullshit?
I don't know if it's going to be something that's if they're making a pivot all the way over to it. It says Facebook announced to invest $300 million in news programs, partnerships, and content over the next 3 years. So tech business created an algorithmic Armageddon for local news outlets, but now Facebook, Google, and Silicon Valley savers are paying to keep local news online. So
Wow.
yeah, I don't know.
I know they have 2 podcasts now. I saw that.
I did see that.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that floating around yesterday. Somebody posted that that they did. I forgot what it was.
Like,
what was
hey,
it?
we're Facebook. Yeah, like we need some friends.
I
guys.
get this sense that they're kind of scrambling a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like to me. For years, Facebook positions itself as a news agnostic. That was the term that she used, Sheryl Sandberg.
Right, like it's unbiased.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Good luck with that.
after investigators exposed the role of Facebook fake news in 2016 U.S. presidential election and other global events, Facebook has
I
reluctantly.
love how people get so enraged over that, like as if fake news never played a role in presidential elections.
Forever.
What?
Yeah.
You guys are spreading false information to get someone elected.
You're motivated by your own agenda.
Yeah, that's called that's how they've been doing it forever. They've always done that. I like the article that Taylor tried to share with us.
Yeah.
That's the
Remote-
second one.
Remote workers are outperforming office. Like hint.
It's like, bro, you just got a raise. You want another one?
He's like, oh, by the way, I'm in Spain now.
This is how I like to work.
He's setting us up, dude.
So, and it's all based off of surveys. Like, one survey in here shows that 65% of workers said that remote work would give their productivity a boost, and another 86% said that working alone allows them to hit maximum productivity. Well, you're going to ask the workers themselves. That'd be like, let's do a survey with the workers. Hey, if you all, got free food here and more money, do you think that of course they're going to say that kind of. All you guys vote on. Should you guys get a raise? What do you think the outcome's going to be on that? What else is in there? Teamwork.
No, we want the company to succeed.
Yeah. This one says 92% of workers say video collaboration improves their teamwork. What's that mean? Just because they're on video? How does that? This is hilarious to me. Yeah. What do you guys think, though? Do you guys think that working remotely?
I think there's enough of an individual variance between all of us that there is going to be a large portion of people that do very well in a remote setting, get up when you want, work at a cafe at the beach, and can be very productive. And then I think there's a very large percentage of people that will fuck off when they do that.
I agree.
And it would be terrible.
I think you just need to make sure you have a high standard of like evaluating the productivity. Like if you can do it elsewhere, I see no problem.
I wouldn't be. I know me. Like
too many distractions.
The environment helps me. So it's funny because he claims to be distracted by this environment. So he comes in here.
We're not distracting.
He comes in here with his things that he needs to do for the day and claims that, we can be very distracting with all things that we have going on, and he's far more productive outside that. And I believe so. I mean, he gets a lot of work done when he's not here. Me, on the other hand, if I went to a cafe instead of coming in here, I mean, real quick, I'd be, eating freaking cronuts and coffee and not paying attention. You know what I'm saying?
What's a cronut?
It's like a croissant had made love to a donut type of thing.
What?
Yeah.
All I was thinking was like an actual crow's nuts.
It's like a churro type of
Is that
donut.
like a delicacy or
It's like
something?
a harder donut.
Justin's option is way more paleo.
Harvesting it is a.
But
a
I
bit
mean,
of an
I
issue.
think that I know that, or at least I know that. Like this environment, like being around you guys is motivating. Like if I'm in here and Justin's on his computer, Sal's writing something, it's motivating. There's a cronut for you right there. I just made that up. I didn't know if that's like the true definition is a croissant making love to a donut.
No, it looks more like a donut that's.
It's like a layer.
Made love to a croissant.
Yeah. Doesn't it look like that, Doug?
It does look like that.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like a French donut.
Yeah.
I don't know why
you're
it's
talking
Why
about.
I feel like my analogy was just fine.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Right. I
Yeah,
think
it works.
it's anybody who's envisioning that would envision what a cronut
Has a
looks like.
cronut been around for a long time, or is
Yeah,
this
I've
just
never
someone-
heard of it. It's crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that word before. Let's find out when this was invented.
It's been a-
Sometimes I feel like people are trying to be smart, and so they'll take two things that
Croissant
people like.
donut and let's smash it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like a
It
pizza.
makes sense.
You ever have a pizza? It's a burger pizza. I just made that up right now. But
Stop
see,
it.
everybody's excited. See?
No,
Pizza.
Pizza.
That's a terrible idea.
You think it's a bad idea?
Yeah, it's a
Burger
terrible-
pizza?
Although it's disgusting that it's popular and it has
Burza.
is the people that are making these burgers with donuts on the glazed donuts for bun.
That was a thing that one of my favorite burger places has as an option. You can
Yes.
put like glazed donut
Yes.
buns. And I was like, what?
Have you ever done that?
No,
Yeah, you have.
I wanted to.
I did.
I didn't,
I did
though.
it.
You did?
One time.
You did really
Long time ago.
So I
It
haven't
just sounds
done
like
it. So I'm
too
talking
sweet.
shit about it. And I haven't done it, but I just feel like that was just a stomach.
I am not a fan of combining sweet with savory. I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not like that. I don't like that. So like when you go to like Chinese restaurants and it's like sweet and sour pork, I just want give me some savory pork and I'll save the sweet for something else. I'm not a big I don't like to combine those two.
I'm with you on that, but then I had a dark chocolate dipped piece of bacon. Whew. Ecstasy.
Yeah.
Is it really?
It was really good.
I thought that was okay. I'm not a big fan of that either.
Salty and sweet is okay, but there's too much
As long as
savory.
it's like real, cooked through. Like
Maybe.
the bacon's real crispy.
Yeah, you don't want it like rubbery and shit. That would
I've
be-
had one of those. That's not good.
How would you do rubbery with chocolate? It would just be melty.
Well, inside would be rubbery still,
So it'd be hard chocolate,
and then rubbery bacon.
chewy bacon.
Yeah.
I like
That's
my.
gross.
I asked my bacon to be
let's-
overcooked.
Yeah,
You
crispy
guys
and
char
flaky.
you guys char the fuck out
Yeah,
of
I
your
want-
bacon.
I
I'm
like
all for it.
I like mine to fall apart in my hand. It's so
That's too burnt.
burnt. I like it.
No,
like
it's crispy's fine, but that's too much cancer.
that.
Right
I don't like. No, you think so? I don't like it. I don't like it flimsy.
You like it hard
Yeah.
in your mouth. Yeah, with the
So
bacon.
it explodes.
But anyway, I do think it's a huge individual variance, and I don't think most people will be more productive working away from home. I don't. It requires
I don't think
more self-discipline than
It's just
most people have.
I think there's people. There's an X amount of people who are listening right now that disagree with you, and there's X amount of people that are. Gonna
but I
say
think
this.
more people don't do better that
And
way.
I think a lot of these companies are constantly trying to reorganize and figure out what's the best workflow and stuff for their company. Because I mean, even Tesla, I remember one of my clients worked there, and they had these benches that were really long because they wanted everybody to have to sit at this really long bench, so that way they interact. And if they have a question, they can like shoot it over to somebody across from them.
What?
Do you know when I talk to a
Yeah.
lot of like CEOs and execs over here, they hate like Google and Facebook because like now all these employees that come on board, like
They demand like everything.
yes,
Yeah.
they're like, I don't know what the fuck is up with this. These stupid companies just ruined it for all of us because the employees just that culture is.
Where's my free smoothie?
It's real. It's just permeating this area right now.
It's
That
because it's so competitive, man.
Yeah.
When you're trying to compete for
like,
for
where's
talent,
where's the slide in the slushy machine?
Yeah.
It's like the fuck. This is work. Get
I
to
want
your
a
desk.
bike. I want a bike to ride around.
well, I mean, when you have a competitive market, then the employees are the kings, and they can demand this kind of shit. And they can, I mean, think about it. If you work at Facebook, if you're like a high performing, creative individual in tech, and you're working at Facebook, and I mean, I wonder if your boss is even kind of a little bit like, oh, I don't want to piss him off because he might go to Google.
You don't
know?
know. You know what they encourage at Facebook, and this is the thing that my niece says is really frustrating. Is they really are like it's very hands off. They make them work together on stuff. Like so, there's instead of having like the chain of command where it's like, okay, this is the VP overseeing all this project and they have final say and word. It doesn't work that way. It's like there's 10 people that collectively have to make sure this project works, and there has to be like sign off on everybody. And she goes, it's really the reason why they've done that is it's created a very positive culture of communication amongst each other and creativity and working with others. The drawback of that, she goes, it can really delay things or
Sounds like a clusterfuck.
yeah, or one person could really fuck it up. For example, in her case, like because she's dealing with recruiting, there's somebody who she could be really excited about, but all it takes is one person in the chain to go like, no,
I don't like their face.
yeah, I don't like them, right? Or whatever like that. And they're like, are you kidding me right now? And then because it doesn't work this way where she's like the final say or there's a final say that goes like, nope, too bad, we're pushing them through. They all have to come together and figure it out. Fucking what a headache sometimes.
It sounds kind of like an experiment in business. You know what I'm saying? Because business has been done for so long a particular way, and it's been a particular way for so long because it works,
Right.
not because people are forcing it. I mean, that's the thing about business. What works is what's going to stick, because you can have all the great ideas in the world and think you're going to run your company great, and if you don't and your company fails, no one's going to copy you. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to continue doing that. I mean, it could just be that they're getting away with doing a lot of the stuff because they're just making so much money.
Right.
But as it becomes more and more competitive, is that going to continue to succeed? Because that whole like make decision by committee thing, boy, it can slow shit down.
Yeah.
It could really, and sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes you need to have somebody who says, no, this is how we're going to do it.
Well, I come from the camp too that there's people that were meant to lead, and there's others that were meant to follow. I mean, I really do. I think that, and I think a vast majority of people were really meant to follow. There's not a lot of, and if you have a bunch,
by nature,
yeah, that's what I mean. So you get a group of 10 people that are all working together, and you're trying to encourage them all to be leaders and make those decisions. And some people just shouldn't be.
When you guys did group projects in school, what was your role in the group project? Because remember how there was always like, you do this, you do this. What did you always do?
Well, I would always try and I'd always try and like help, and then but it always inevitably be like, okay, just give me the keys. Like let me take, like, I don't know. I would have, unless somebody was a really strong leader and was like, I got this, and I would just like try and help and fuel that. Like I would inevitably end up taking the project over like halfway through.
So you were the kid that did the work, all the work.
All the work. Yeah.
That sucks.
Always.
I took advantage of the fact that nobody ever wanted to present the project. Like everybody was always afraid to go to the front of the class.
Oh, of course.
And talk about the project. So I was always like, oh, cool, I'll do a project. Because then I would sit there and be like, okay, well, I'll help you guys, but I'll do the talking. I'll go up and do the talking. That's not a problem.
See, that would have been perfect. I would have handed it right off to you.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, I would say sometimes I was that guy, but even as a young kid, I was always somebody who was really good at like kind of getting everybody together and deciding like who was best at what. So I kind of led the group of, I would be able to sit in that group if we were all kids and go, hey, Justin's the guy to do the work. And I'd say, Justin, you do the work.
Hey, man, you're good at doing the work. I'm going to dump it on you.
Yeah. But don't worry. I'm not going to make you stand up for the class because Sal is great at that. So he's
You would have sold me on that.
Yeah, I would have, right? So I was really good at that even as a
dodged a bullet there.
It's funny. I mean, my mom's got videos of me with kids like we must be 5 or 6 years old. And playing, and I'm like organizing how we're playing, like, oh, you go over here and you do this, and you go over here and you do that. Just, it was built in me as a young kid, and it's all the way through elementary and junior high and high school. I was kind of always that person in our group. But I'm also somebody too, if I need to step up and be the person, like I could be that guy too. But then I can also take a step back if I recognize someone like you who I go, hey, Sal's better. He's the man to come up here and talk in front of this class. I could do it if everyone's scared. I'll do it, but it's like, okay, if you
it was funny. I remember this one in particular. It was like a history group project, and we were supposed to go up to the front of the class and present. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was this idea or whatever. And so we were one of the last groups to go up, and we quickly realized that everything that we had done was wrong. We had totally misunderstood the project. So everybody was panicking, and they're all sitting around like we're in the back watching these. And I'm like, "Fuck, we didn't do that.
We did the wrong thing.
We didn't do."
You're like, "I got this."
Exactly.
Yeah.
I looked.
Don't worry, guys. I got this.
I looked at them and I'm like, "I'll take care of it." And so I went up there and bullshitted the entire presentation. And we got an A, and I was like the hero at the end of it. Like, yay!
You saved us.
It was hilarious.
Did you see? I don't know if the episode just went live. I think yesterday, the day before, about the whole me poo-pooing on the Colorado trip. I actually got quite a few people from Colorado that were messaging me about that.
About which one?
What? Remember, I just talked about Rachel coming in and talking about the whole Ned thing and us going out to Colorado.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I actually
What were they saying?
Oh, they're like, what the fuck, dude? You guys were going to come to Colorado and you turned it down or whatever.
Didn't?
Yeah, and I said, we'll still make it out there.
I'm going to head out there.
I want to go. That's the weirdest thing is I'm such a mountain cholo, I've never been to Colorado.
It's beautiful out
I'm going out there this summer for a friend's wedding, so I'll be out there. We're going out to Vail. Where's Vail?
That looks beautiful, man.
Is that like a nice
ski resort area? Man.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So we're going to be out there. I've heard it's gorgeous out there.
No,
I have friends that moved there.
What month are you going to be there?
When are we? June. End of June.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard it's. I have friends that moved to Colorado from the Bay Area, and they said it's an amazing place.
Yeah,
there's Vail right there.
Quite a few people.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, isn't it?
Wow. Look at that. Yeah, that's amazing.
You won't be there during the snow, but it'll be still. I mean, you'll be. It'll be green. It
looks like that. Look at that.
So it's what's beautiful about Colorado. It's either beautiful and green, or you get the fall gorgeous colors, or you get snow. It's like it's always beautiful there.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Ned, one thing that and this is just for the audience because we know this, one thing that we look at whenever we work with a sponsor is what kind of return response they get from our listeners. In other words, if we like a product, there's this huge long vetting process that people don't see behind the scenes. If a company has a product, we usually try it out for months. Then we meet with the CEO or the owners or founders. Then if we like everything and, Taylor approves, he likes all the branding and imaging, and we like the product and all that stuff, then we'll usually sign an agreement with them. And it's usually a short one to start with to kind of test things out. And one of the things that we look at is, do our listeners, not only do they try the product, but then do they return, which means they like it, right? Because we don't want to work with a company that, that we think is great and we like them, but we notice our customers, or excuse me, our client, our listeners are not return customers for them, because then it tells us this is not a fit and people aren't liking it like we thought they would. Well, the net return rate is people have been going back and getting more and more of the hemp oil like crazy.
Yeah.
The response has been
Lots
phenomenal.
of positive response.
Phenomenal.
I still haven't tried the really strong one. I want to try the really strong one.
Well, all you got to do is, which one do you have? The 300?
350.
Just take
4 drops.
four times a dose and see if you like it.
Yeah, I've done that. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I've taken the 4 time a dose, and that's puts me to bed like big time. I have that with the gold juice. Oh, it brought home that gold, and I haven't tried the new flavor. I want to try that combo together. That's like the
Rachel had me try on some of that body butter, and they got some like skin products. Like,
they do.
Tried any of that?
Yeah, hemp oil skin products.
You smell like a Christmas tree.
It's great. Yeah, it smells good. Actually.
Well, if anybody could use body butter,
I am the ashiest of everybody here.
It's Ashy McGee over here.
It's the butterball.
It's the butterball. We got to rub him down.
Ashy butterball.
Well, hemp oil is got a nice fatty acid profile, so it does have good properties for skin and hair and stuff like that. So like hemp shampoo is really good. Hemp oil skin products are really good for the skin, or they seem pretty nourishing.
I got to remember to grab an extra bottle for. I was talking to Jordan Harbinger last night. We were going back and forth, and he was telling me that like ever since he's a non-marijuana guy, but he was introduced to CBD, and he said it's been like a game changer for him.
What is he using
That's
it
the
for?
gateway.
Yeah, we'll get him smoking weed in no time.
Stress and anxiety.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was saying he was.
He went through it last year. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, remember that. And he was asking me like the difference between like the hemp version versus the marijuana version. And I told him the next time he comes in, I said, I'll have Sal break down all the whole full spectrum thing for you, so he can science the fuck out of you and tell you why you want to take the Ned one.
Yeah, we'll be seeing more of those products on the market. It's exploding right now.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's starting to explode.
It's
the thing that annoys
quality though.
That's it. That's the thing that annoys me is
just quality. And the one thing that I don't ever want to claim on this show is that it's like a cure all for anything. I mean,
that's what you're hearing a lot, which is not true.
No, it's not. I mean, it's fascinating because we have so many of the receptors all over our body, so then it does have a lot of applications. So stress, anxiety, aches and pains, like restlessness at night. I mean, there's a lot of cool things that and properties that come from it. It doesn't mean that it's like this magic pill, It's like, come on, dude, it's not like that.
The thing that excites me the most about all of this research is just the simple fact that the endocannabinoid system is so large and covers so much of the body and controls so many different functions, or at least mediates them. It's like a dimming switch between different functions. And why that's fascinating to me is there's a lot of chronic health conditions that we really don't have good medicine for, and because cannabinoids, at least the organic ones, because they have synthetic cannabinoids which have actually shown to have some not as safe in terms of like if you can overdose and stuff, but the organic ones are very safe in terms of like being dangerous. Like it takes an insane amount of THC, for example, to kill someone. Like an insane amount. It's actually impossible to overdose on THC from organic sources of the plant.
Oh yeah,
you'd have to concentrate and distill it to the point where it's just absolutely insane. But if you had the actual plant in front of you and someone said, "Here, try to kill yourself with it," your best bet would be to suffocate yourself with it by putting it over your face or choking on it, because you wouldn't be able to die from smoking or eating it, which is cool because what we see was the kind of these dose dependent effects on things like cancer. So there's a lot of claims online, and trust me, I know all of them. I went through this years ago with a family member on how cannabinoids, cannabis can cure cancer. I hate that they say that, but what is fascinating is that cannabinoids do have this really interesting positive effect on cancer, and it seems to be dose dependent, which some people, this is anecdote now, but if you go online, you can read all these anecdotes of people who were diagnosed with these different forms of cancers and then went on really, really powerful cannabis oils. And you have to take high doses, not something you would take recreationally, but people were getting better and curing themselves. And that the first mainstream researcher that showed that was out of Spain on mice. Dr. Guzman, I believe, I think the study was in 1996, if I'm not mistaken. And they showed that putting THC or giving rats high doses of THC with these types of brain tumors were surviving much, much longer, and some of them were actually getting cured. So I'm very fascinated to see if cannabinoids become a potential adjuvant therapy with chemo. Like, so you don't have to take as much chemo, but you have to, you take all these cannabinoids with it, and combine that with fasting, because fasting's another fascinating one. So that's what interests me the most. I know I put my money where my mouth is. I'm invested in companies who are doing all this research. So we'll see what happens.
This Quaz brought to you by Organifi. For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's ORGANIFI.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout. First question is from Johnny Salami 3.
Hey, Johnny Salami.
My cousin over there?
Bag of donuts, eh?
When you squat, how do you address hip shift or tilt, which seems to be leading to less engagement in one leg and overdevelopment in the other?
So like an asymmetrical shift.
Yeah, so your hips move to one direction.
Really,
have you guys seen those videos online where they'll have a hip shift and then they'll put like a slight wedge under one foot?
What?
Yeah, so these are great videos where the person will have a hip shift and they'll identify it's coming from the ankle, and then they'll put like a little wedge to make up for it under one of the feet, and then the hip shift just disappears.
Right.
Which I think is really fascinating.
Well,
although I wouldn't work out that way.
No. And
crutch.
I would say that's the most common reason for a shift is the foot is pronating first. So the breakdown is happening 9 times out of 10 is happening in the foot. So if they pronate on the right side, am I going to shift to my left? I'm thinking backwards here, right? I'm going to shift to my left if I pronate on my right. If I pronate on my right, my foot dips in. That's going to cause me to shift over to the right.
Maybe.
I'm fucking thinking backwards here. Anyways.
We get what you're trying to say. Yeah.
I'm like, I need to see it, but
the breakdown is going to be in the foot, right? So you're going to, most of the time, like I don't know if I've ever seen somebody shift like that, unless you've seen somebody who had some sort of surgery on their knee, their ankle, their foot, their hip on one side, and then the other side's become really dominant.
Yeah.
And strong, and so the body naturally shifts to the more dominant side. So
most of the time I've seen that is because of a previous injury that they've worked through. Yeah, like most clients I've had with that have compensated significantly on their, and made, another leg is way more dominant as a result. And so having to peel back down and work on the foot and the ankle is really huge.
I think it's important to explain that just because you had an injury or you had a surgery on your leg and now it doesn't hurt anymore, we're not talking about that one of the leg hurts.
Right.
No.
What we're saying is you at one point had an injury that caused you to move a particular way for long enough to where that is now how you move. So, because I've actually done that where I'll be like, oh, it's because of your knee surgery, but my knee's fine now. It's like, doesn't matter if it's fine now.
Right.
At one point, it was bad for long enough to where you learn how to move a particular way, and that's just how you move now.
The other side overcompensates.
Now we got to change it
to make up for it, and then then where you see this exaggerated, and it's hard to tell maybe for somebody who's just kind of walking and they've been beyond the injury for months or years, but when you load and you squat, this is where these things start to express themselves as you say, oh, wow, now this person all of a sudden shifts. I used to be able to say that to people too when I would do an assessment. It was one of the ways I would blow somebody away is I would see that they would shift, and then I would know, oh, did you have an injury on this side? And
they'd
be
like
like,
a wizard.
Right, and they're like, oh my God, like 8 years ago I had knee surgery. How did you know that? And it's like, well, you can tell that you're more dominant on this side. When you squat, your body shifts over to the more dominant, stronger side to carry the load. And you don't feel it or even notice it normally as a person.
Now it can technically come from anywhere up the body. I mean, you could have shoulder dysfunction. So if you're squatting with a bar and one shoulder doesn't go back as far as the other one, so now the bar is twisted, and so then that affects the squat. It can be above your hips. It could be in your waist. I used to see this a lot in new mothers where they would squat, and one hip would be a little higher, and then I'd ask them, "Is that the side that you carry your baby?" And they'd be like, oh my God, again, like I'd sound like a wizard. How did you know? And I'm like, well, that side's shorter, and it looks like that's the side that is raising when we're doing the squat. So these are all just, whenever you see a shift, it means just the right and left are not symmetrical. That's all it means. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the foot, knee, ankle, hip, shoulder. It means it's one of those things, and now you have to look a little deeper. Now, to be quite honest, besides being very specific with your assessment, like I used to do, where I would just get real specific with assessment. One of the easier kind of this is more of a general way of addressing it, but it actually is quite effective in a lot of people. Not everybody, but in a lot of people, is just switching to unilateral exercises for a while. Yeah. I've done that with so many people. You know how it first started is when I wasn't able to fix an issue. So I was trying to identify foot, ankle, hip, and let's do this, let's do that. None of it's working. Fine, we're not going to do any exercises for the next 6 weeks with both your legs together. Everything's going to be split stance lunges, one-legged, toe touches, those kind of exercises. Then we'd go back to squatting, and everything was fixed.
Yeah. It's interesting. What do they call that? Is contralateral effect, where you have shoulder injury and it's affecting across your body.
It goes diagonal all the way down your body. So it goes shoulder to low back.
So if it's left shoulder, it's right, leg is affected, on some level. And I've found that to be the case with some clients too. So definitely the unilateral helps to expose that even further, to see where these compensations occur. And I think that's really like you have to sort of peel down and really like assess where this dysfunction, the source of it is.
You can see that what you just talked about, that contralateral effect, very clearly in one of the most natural things that humans do, which is walk upright or run. So when you're walking or running, you can really see it. You'll notice that when your left leg goes forward to take a step, your right arm goes forward. And when you're stepping forward with your right, then they switch. So it's the opposite side that moves forward from top to bottom. Try running or walking the other way, and then you'll see what's going on. Like try walking where your right leg goes forward and your right arm goes forward. It's very awkward, very strange, and it's just counterbalance.
So if I notice that is an issue, like that's something where I'm going to spend some time and work on some of those like real foundational movements like bird dogs and anything where it's like I got like cross-sectional firing where I'm doing like in beast position and I'm having them sort of doing crawling patterns and things like that too, just to reestablish that firing sequence. So sometimes that can play a factor in the asymmetrical shifting.
If there wasn't an injury, look to the feet, because I feel like that
that's a new thing too that we all kind of really blew us away.
Yeah,
because that wasn't something I always not automatically looked to.
Right, and that's why I'm stressing that right now, because that was something that I think I neglected, and I would be trying to tease out all the other things. And if someone would be like, "No, I never had any injury," and then I'd be like, "Fuck, okay, what's going on here? Why are they so dominant on the side?" And really ignoring what's going on their feet. So things that I do now is for sure when I do a squat assessment, I'm having someone get barefoot so I could see that. And I watch somebody's gait now, where I used to not do that. I so much will tell you can see so much in somebody's gait, all the way from pay attention to where their hands are positioned. You'll see some people, their hand, one side is more internally rotated with their hand or externally rotated, and you'll see them kind of cocked to the side so that maybe their low back is tight and shortened on one side. You start to see all these little things start to express themselves when they walk up and down in front of you or squat barefoot. and then just start to address those each one of them individually.
Now, I'll say this is going to blow some people away. The people who tend to have the worst symmetry are not your everyday out of shape people.
No, it's your athletes.
Athletes.
Yeah.
You have an athlete. You train an athlete. I mean, think about it, right? If you play baseball, you always swing from one side. You throw with one side. There's always one side that you favor, and because you train it so hard that way, you develop these crazy imbalances. I mean, I had this one kid who was an extraordinary pitcher. I mean, in high school, this kid was throwing just major heat, and he ended up, going Division I baseball in college. But he came in to hire me as a trainer, and I could not believe the difference between his right and left side. It was like you took two versions of him and sewed them together, because he'd never lifted weights. All he'd done is play baseball and pitched for most of his life. And it was so different. It's funny, they did when they do these archaeological discoveries where they're finding old bones or whatever. They found a bunch of them. I don't remember where they were. I want to say either Greece or Rome. Okay,
I was going to say Northern European, but
it was something like that. And they ended up, and they were able to determine that they were discus throwers. They were Olympic discus throwers. Now, why? Because the way that the bones were developed on one side of the body, and the muscle attachments were so much stronger looking, because they can actually see on the bone where the muscle attaches, because they were always throwing, with one side.
Right.
Same thing
with
in
the longbow archers,
one.
right?
They have these twisted spines when they would look at them, where the scapula was much bigger on one side and everything was so different. So your body actually starts to do that. Now, why is it important to be so balanced if you're the average person? Like, okay, who cares if I'm a little off on the left or right? And when I work out, why is that so important that I fix that? Aesthetically speaking, it's aesthetic to be symmetrical. So if you want to look really good, even slight changes in symmetry will reduce your aesthetic effect. And I know that's important for people, because that's why a lot of them work out. But the other one is just injury prevention. You plan on working out for the rest of your life, and you plan on moving for the rest of your life. You don't want to have crazy,
just chronic pain too.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're not moving symmetrically, which none of us are perfectly symmetrical, right? But the more away from that normal you are, the more likely you're going to have these nagging pains in your joints. And shameless plug, but this is what MAPS Prime Pro, in my opinion, everybody who is a personal trainer, or anybody who has ever dealt with any sort of achiness or pain in joints, should own this program, because you would use this as a tool. Talking about this question, you would go down each major joint in their body, starting with their feet and ankle, and address it with all the movements that are in there. Hopefully that fixes this asymmetrical shift. If it doesn't, you start working your way up the kinetic chain, so up the body and going to each major joint. And in that program, there's several movements and exercises to help support that joint. And you'll know when you hit it. More likely when you get to the right one, they'll feel it. They'll be very disconnected. They won't be able to do the movement very well, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I can't feel that," or "What's going on? I can't perform it." It's like, okay, here's where the breakdown probably is. They can't even move their foot properly, and now I know this is where it's coming from. So talk about a must-have program if you're a trainer, or if you're just anybody who's trying to troubleshoot nagging aches and pain in your own body.
Next question is from Lit to Life podcast. NASM emphasizes the importance of beginning programs with a stabilization phase, progressing through muscular endurance and hypertrophy, and then entering a strength phase. But in many MAPS programs, you guys start with a strength phase.
I thought
Why?
this would be a fun conversation, because for many years, this is how I trained, because I was definitely indoctrined by NASM. I had all their certifications, and I was definitely in the core world. And like I talked on the other podcast the other day, that all my clients were doing balancing stabilization bullshit for the longest time. Now, what I like about this, and what I think NASM did good, is it is a very methodical, smart approach to clients, a very safe way to take someone through. I don't think it's the fastest way to progress somebody, or for them to build muscle, to burn body fat. And so as an experienced trainer now, I look back and go like, okay, how do I how do I give them the best of both worlds, right? How do I make sure that I train them safely, intelligently, but then I also give them the best bang for their buck? And I think that matters a lot when you're teaching a program to a client, especially in our case where we're selling an online program that you're going to take. If we would have started MAPS with a 4 to 7 week stabilization phase, everybody would be returning the program because they don't see any change in their physique.
Well,
really.
we do that with the MAP Starter. I mean, NASM is teaching trainers to train beginners.
Yeah, super deconditioned individuals that are just off the street.
It's coming from a very safe.
Yeah, if you're training a beginner, that's exactly how you should train them.
Exactly.
You start with stabilization, so they can stabilize their joints. Then you move them through building some endurance and building a little bit of muscle, and then you work them through strength. That's exactly how you should train most everyday beginner people. Now, that's how we designed MAP Starter. MAPS Anabolic was not designed for an off-the-street total beginner. It just wasn't. MAPS Anabolic was designed for people who have a little bit of lifting experience. You know, maybe they're not advanced, but they've worked out, or they work out a little bit, and okay, I want to start working out. What should I do? So when you look at like MAP Starter, for example, that's exactly the progression that we follow, and the movements follow that. And it's now, again, if you're the average guy or girl who has some experience working out, you want to build muscle, speed up your metabolism, should you go through the NASM protocol? Probably not. You're past the stabilization phase. You've been lifting weights for a little while. You know what a squat feels like. You know what a deadlift feels like. You've lifted weights before. You can go straight into the strength stuff. The other thing too is the avatar that I had envisioned with the original MAPS program was somebody who has done body part splits and is trying to build muscle, and their body's not responding anymore. And they're probably stuck in this 8 to 15 rep range and supersets and stuff like that people like to do because they get in a pump. I knew if I threw them straight into a strength phase, it would blow them away. Yeah, I knew that would happen. I knew that especially for women who oftentimes are scared or deterred from doing the heavy strength stuff.
Yeah, and I think too, like the podcast itself, we feel like initially we were trying to reach people that were already in the gym, already interested in fitness, have some bit of a foundation established, but now we're trying to introduce them to a sequence that would benefit them the most that they probably were neglecting, which again, like you're saying, the high reps and the split routines, these types of things, we're trying to pull people into a direction where if you really want to build that strength that's going to carry you on, like this is the way to do it, here's the blueprint, but then and we went through this whole process and realized, oh wow, there's a lot more beginners that actually listen to our show than we anticipated, so we need to come up with structure for that. And so that's where Starter came from. We had to think about that. If we were to sort of pluck and put them in place of well, I've never stepped foot in the gym, how do I coach that, and how do I get them to where MAPS Anabolic makes sense?
It really depends on who you're talking to. Yeah. I would say that, I don't know, it's probably about a 50-50 of the people that I train would start probably in something like Starter, and then the other 50% would be in an anabolic program. It's probably a good even split. I used to do this test, and that after I got out, because for a while there I was pure NSM. I didn't care if I got a fucking advanced athlete. You were going through stabilization. You know what I'm saying?
I do that too.
Right. So I mean, I definitely drank the Kool-Aid of NASM to where I put everybody through that, no matter what their level was. But later on, I started to realize that people that had a good sense of core posture could balance. I could move them kind of beyond that sooner, or start them somewhere more like in MAPS Anabolic. So I used to have them. You'd be amazed, and it's probably about half your people if you're a trainer, that your client that can stand on one leg and balance on one leg, and then move that foot to the front, the side, the back. And I used to do this test.
The leg that's off the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
The leg that's off the ground. So they're balancing on one leg, and I'd say front, side, back, and I make them do that 10 times on each side.
I would make them twist going back.
Yeah. If you can't go front, side, back, balancing on one leg for 10 reps on each side, then that would always be my indication that, okay, I need to spend some time with this person in a stabilization phase, because they can't even hold their posture upright and stabilize and balance on one leg. if you can do that fairly easy as a client, I can probably progress you quicker beyond that and move you into more of a strength type of phase.
Now, the other thing too is with NASM, the thing that I didn't like about NASM was they would take the stabilization, I would think, a little too far sometimes. Like here, look, I trained a lot of people in advanced stage at one point. So here are people who are in their 80s, some of them in their early 90s.
Very deconditioned.
Who are very deconditioned. This is about as deconditioned as you're going to get. They're coming in, they haven't worked out. Their son or daughter usually is the one that gets them the training. They come into my gym, and I'm just going to have them. I start by doing basic movement. So we're going to sit on the bench, and what I want to practice with you, Mrs. Johnson, is sitting up tall, okay? And we're going to hold that tall position for 15 seconds, and then you relax. Now, for somebody who's deconditioned, that's an exercise. And then I would have them do something like, okay, now we're going to stand up and sit back down. Let's see if you can stand up and sit back down off this bench. Oh, you can't? Here, let me put some pads underneath you to elevate you. You know, you get a lot out of just doing basic movements. I think NSM sometimes goes too far.
They overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
I also feel that, the whole single leg balance thing, like after a while, I'm like, why don't I just have them in a split stance? Like that's plenty for them to, try and stabilize. And that's more realistic.
That's exactly what I progressed to.
Yeah. And it's like, I want to learn how to ground myself, because think about what's more likely like during your day. If it is somebody that's deconditioned and they're just looking to get strong for everyday activities and life in general, yes, they'll be in split stance positions. For the most part, it'll be bilateral type of movements where, it's pretty balanced, but I want them to be strong in those movements. How often are they really like on one leg?
Well, here's okay, let's break down the whole importance of the stabilization phase. The whole importance of that is to teach someone the ability to activate the core, support their spine, and be able to hold themselves upright and in good posture.
Yeah, you could just call it control.
Right,
Right.
through these movements. And so, Justin, and I've done some videos on YouTube like this, and I know I've gotten some shit from some of these knuckleheads out there, but this is why I teach all of my isolation type stuff for tricep and bicep and shoulder laterals, like things like that. I teach in a split stance. It's already an isolation movement. It's not a big compound lift. I don't need to be both feet planted on the ground and need a lot of strength for that. It's more of an isolation exercise, a pumping type of a movement. So I always found that these were like really good times to challenge the stabilization level just by throwing them in a split stance. All that does is just it forces them to be aware of their posture and their mechanics. It forces them upright. It forces them to draw their transverse abdominis in to kind of support that around the spine. And I found that I could move them into a strength training type of a program, but just incorporate some of that in there, and I got all the benefits.
And it also highlights where it like exaggerates the compensations, because when I go to lift something, I might lean a little heavy to one side, or
and you'll tip over.
Yeah, and you'll tip over, and so you have to readjust and balance it out.
Yeah, and again, I probably back half of my career, I realized that I was just more effective at simplifying things. And the thing that gets me a little irritated with the super technical, scholars with this kind of stuff is that they go too far a little bit. Like, and they forget the desired goal. They forget the goal. Like, again, if I need to train someone to improve their quality of life, now an NASM may say, okay, we're going to do this balance stuff, and we can show measurable improvements in balance with this exercise where you're standing on a Dynadisc and you're balancing. And that's great. I'll take the person and I'll get them stronger at squatting. And they might not test as good as you're showing with your balance test, but when they go in everyday life, which one's actually going to prevent them from falling and hurting themselves? Which one's going to give them better quality of life?
What's going to make them more resilient? Yeah,
the squat. I mean, it was really funny how my training progressed. I started off as a beginner. I got really complicated with my training, and then as I got better, everything became much more simple. So I would get people and I'd be like, no, we're not going to do this weird stuff. And yeah, I can get you good at doing that weird stuff, but I realized that if I just get you stronger overall, That's going to give you way more carryover the rest of your life.
This is why now if I were to get somebody in front of me, the first thing I do is do a squat with them, and maybe 50% or more of the time they can't, or there's a lot of breakdown, and then the entire session is built around that.
Mm-hmm.
The entire session is, here's all the reasons why you're not squatting well. I can see that in your movement, and here's all the things that you need to do to get better at doing that, and that becomes an incredible workout.
It's funny. I've talked many times about the physical therapist that worked in my facility that I learned a lot from. Well, there was a lot that I taught her as well. So she was exceptional when it came to correctional exercise. Obviously, that's probably the pinnacle, right? Is that she was a physical therapist who specialized in like really working with people who have movement pattern issues and stuff. And she would take these clients and she'd get them to a certain point. Like, okay, now they can move their shoulder in a particular way. Now they can walk a particular way. But then she would get stuck in a particular space. And what was funny is there was a period where she went on vacation and she asked me if I could take her clients through some exercises. And I said, sure. So she had these clients that were stuck in this, like, they still have pain, whatever, but she's only gotten them so far. I started doing traditional resistance training exercise. She came back from her vacation, took them through assessments, and was like, okay, she sat me down. She's like, what did you do? Like, they progressed in 2 weeks more than they progressed in the previous 5 months with me. I'm like, I just got them stronger at basic foundational movements, because the carry over there into real life, because it really doesn't matter how great you test on some complicated test, that doesn't mean shit unless it applies to everyday life. It's almost like those supplement companies that show that this supplement raises this marker and this, and okay, how much muscle they build?
Yeah.
Oh, none? Good. Waste the money. Throw it away.
Right.
Next question is from C. Pierce 85. What does a typical workday look like for you guys from wake up to bed? All the things you talk about, I can't see how you get it all done.
We talk like we do a lot of stuff.
I don't know.
I feel like we don't do very much shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do. I don't feel like we talk like we do a lot of stuff, right? Do we make it like a big deal like we do a bunch of shit?
I don't know. My schedule looks different. If
we all are very different. Let's hear it.
If my kids are with me or they're not, then that'll be a little different. But I'll wake up typically at 5 or 5:30. I'll wake up and usually around 6:30 is when I start my workout. I'll do my workout. Then I'll do about 20 minutes in the sauna and shower, get the kids lunch ready or whatever. They'll get ready. And while I'm in the sauna is usually, by the way, when I'm doing my reading and my writing. So I love to do that in the sauna. And luckily my phone hasn't gotten fried yet. So we'll see how long that takes. Then I'll get them to school. Then we'll come here to Mind Pump. And usually we start out the day here by, we'll all hang out for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then we'll come into the studio and record a podcast or two. And then if there's other things that we need to do, we'll do together, like we did a photo shoot the other day. And then we tend to break off and do our own things. And for me, that usually looks like more research and more writing. At the moment, I'm writing a lot of blogs for us. If my kids aren't with me, it's a little bit more. It's actually it's a lot more flexible. I mean, I have way more time to do things when my kids aren't around. At night when I get home, that's when I'll do more. I do a lot of reading, but I don't read a lot of books. Most of what I read are articles, and it's probably my ADD coming out, right? It's articles and studies that I'll tend to read. And now that I've been sharing them on my stories, you get that's probably maybe 1/6 of the shit that I'll read, and I'll share 5 or 6 articles, but I'll end up reading a lot more that I don't share on there. So that's a lot of what I get, and it gives me it gives me my content for what I like to talk about on the show, but also it's kind of what interests me. And then before bed, Jessica and I like to turn the lights down and
make love.
Yep, sweet
Barry White.
Yep, I'll send a video to Adam, and he gives me a ranking.
Lucky.
Yeah. That was a good performance, Sal.
Yeah.
No,
6.5.
No, we'll hang
3.5
out.
stars.
No, we'll hang out. We'll drink tea or something like that, or we'll watch some show on Netflix. And I'm usually in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. I wish I got to bed that early. I get up around 5:30. And then it depends on Courtney's schedule, my schedule, like who gets the kids ready. And I tend to train. I still train one client on the days that basically are alternate with me getting the kids ready for school, and then doing the breakfast and getting their clothes and everything else, driving to school, hustle over here. It takes me about 45 minutes. And so what I'll do then is I'll usually listen to an audiobook or a podcast during my commute, which that's been game changer for me. And that's where I get a lot of my content, and it helps to kind of keep me fresh. So I don't really have a whole lot of time to sit and read anything. So the whole audio experience has been humongous for me. But yeah, so I'll train my client sometimes, and she lives in Saratoga, so then I'll stop there, and then I'll come to the studio after that here, or I'll just come straight to the studio. And at that point, it's I'm basically getting a coffee, then we get to work, and then we start that whole process. And then once that's done, we break off. I'll either have to pick the kids up from their respective activities. Like one of my sons, he does this like outdoor activity. I pick him up from there. My other son's like either at my parents or Taekwondo, and then after that, get everything ready, start the whole process of getting ready for dinner, do all the chores around the house and all that, and get caught up. And then I look back at work, and then get caught up at work and do things to, try and get things moving forward with right now, trying to reface all the programs. And so making sure all the different, people that are involved with that have everything they need. And then around, I want to say maybe 8:30, put the kids to bed, start that whole process. And then after that, then me and Courtney get to spend some time around like 9 o'clock. And then we maybe spend like an hour. I usually pass out on the couch around 10, and then try and drag myself to bed, take the dog out to, do his business, get all that. I end up going to sleep around 11:30. I can't get to sleep.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So you go to bed, you fall asleep on the couch at 10, but then you wake up and go to bed at 11:30 and wake up at 5?
Yeah.
Oh, you're chronically exhausted.
All the time.
Yeah, dude, you need to get to bed.
I know.
Make a big deal about it.
I've been trying.
It'll change your life.
I've been trying. So
No wonder you drink 45 coffees a day.
now you see the madness.
When do you work out? What time do you work out?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So I work out when I get right home. That's it. If I don't do it right when I get home, it doesn't happen.
Oh, really? Okay.
And
at a certain time I have to.
Yeah, so it's like consistently it's been like 3 times a week. Sometimes I'll do 4 if I'm lucky, and I'm like, I'm on a streak.
Mm-hmm.
But when I drop down to 1 to 2, I'm like, I feel like shit, and the whole rest of like my focus is just, I got to get back in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sleep was a game changer for me, man. If I don't do that, I'm a different person. I used to do that. I used to go to bed late and wake up early. But I make it a priority. I am in bed at this time.
The irony of that is that you're probably the most disorganized out of all of us, but you're really regimented about your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
That you never noticed that about him?
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, you're fucking so disorganized about everything.
It's the only way.
But when it comes to your eating, your training, your
that's
sleep,
your eye of the storm.
It is.
That's because if I don't at least organize that, then it's a mess. It's an absolute mess, and I have to do that. If you'll notice something about me also, I am extremely regimented with certain parts of my life. For example, you'll always notice that I'll always put my keys in my wallet or my phone or my bag in always the exact same places. You'll always notice that.
I've learned that too. Yeah.
Otherwise, you lose them.
Do that. Yeah.
I am very regimented about certain things. My shoes have to be in a certain way. Like I said, I'm one step away from being that weirdo who wears the same clothes and has the same shit and the same.
Yeah. I kind of get it now. It's scary.
Yeah, it is.
It's scary.
Yeah, that's funny. So I'm I only 1, maybe 2 days a week am I up at 5. So I train. I always keep like 1 client. So and I have like 2 or 3 clients that I've known for a really long time, and I typically train 1 day a week. That one of those clients, maybe 2 times, I'll get up at 5. The rest of the time I don't get up till about 7 o'clock, which is pretty nice. I get up.
I love those days.
Yeah, that's most of my days. So most of my days I'm not up till about 7 o'clock. And I actually normally wake up without an alarm, and I get up at 7. First thing I do is, shower, brush my teeth. I'm a shower fanatic, so I got to shower 2 to 3 times a day every day. So I cannot go to work without being showered. I know some people can do that. Katrina can do that sometimes. I don't know how the fuck she does that.
I do that.
Do you do that too? You're a non-shower
I
in the
just
morning
get
guy?
up and go.
God, I can't
You're
do
throwing
it.
her under the bus right now.
Yeah.
Katrina likes to not shower.
Yeah. But so after that, I come downstairs. I if I don't fast, I'll have a breakfast. This morning, she actually had French toast left for me. That was a nice treat. I don't normally get that. And I'll have a cup of coffee while I'm sitting there eating. And now at this time is when I'm normally opening up my Instagram DMs and trying to get back to as many of them as I can. I'm opening my emails. I'm having my cup of coffee. I'm kind of sitting at the counter. After that, I'll walk the boys. So I take them for a nice little walk so they can go to the restroom and stuff. And then I clean the house. If there is any dishes or dish that's left out from the night before that I just ate on, I normally clean that all up. So the kitchen and living room, dining room, and our bedroom, I make the bed and make sure there's no laundry anywhere. So make sure the house is all nice and clean. And then I head off to work. When I get here, like you guys said, the first half hour or so is just kind of us connecting and, sometimes sharing studies or articles that we read or, oh, did you guys see this? Or bullshitting about stuff that we can't put on the podcast. And then we get in here and we podcast, and it's typically one podcast. Sometimes it's two, depending on if we need to get ahead on something because we got a project coming up like we have this week. So like a day today, we may do 2 episodes. And then after that, this is when I normally start to meet with everybody on our team. If I'm not meeting with Doug, then I'm meeting with Taylor. If I'm not meeting with Taylor, I'm meeting with Eli. If I'm not meeting with Eli, I'm meeting with Brianna. If I'm not talking to Brianna, I'm talking to Cassie. If I'm not talking to Cassie, I'm talking to Casey or Brett. And if not, and on a crazy day, I'm talking to all of them. And they're all responsible for customer service, advertising, our schedule, the marketing and Facebook advertising on the backside, the creative side with the video and the YouTube and design. And so I'm always communicating with them, just kind of making sure that they're all on the same page as the 4 of us owners are and moving the ship in the right direction. And so I spend a lot of time doing that. After that, I normally get my workout in. So I got to work out somewhere between 1 and 4 o'clock. That's my sweet spot. If I don't make it in that time, I won't be working out that day. Where I'm at in my life right now, I'm not obviously competing. If I was competing, I would find a way always. Like right now, I'm in this, if I work out, I work out, and I'm probably landing somewhere between just what Justin said. I'm between 2 and 4 times a week right now. And then I'm actually lifting right now to make sure that I can handle the snowboarding. So that's my priorities right now, is to ride a lot during the winter. So most of my training is centered around, that, and making sure that I'm in good enough condition to hang with the young whippersnapper like Taylor. And after that, I'll come home. I normally beat Katrina home. When I get home, I walk the boys again. And if I hadn't finished up straightening up the house, I will sit down and normally get back onto DMs or emails, or I'm continuing on those conversations with people on the team. And then by the time Katrina gets home, we normally have dinner together. And depending on what kick we're on, we are right now we're on like TV series. Like, so I'm watching TV right now, it's refreshing because we came off of a long kick for a while there where we were reading a book or listening to a book together almost every single night. And so right now we're in the entertainment phase of our life. And I kind of weave in and out of that. Like, I'm not somebody who's like, we have to do this all the time. Like, we were on a kick. It was a goal of ours last year that we, read a book every single month together and then on our own. And so almost every night we were reading together. She actually just brought it up in conversation 2 nights ago about, hey, we should read a book. It's been a while since we've read a book together, but we've been on this Netflix series kick for a while and Amazon Prime stuff, which you hear me sharing about. And then after we watch a show, it's normally, 8 or 9. And I'm watching a lot of sports right now. I watch every single Warrior game. So I'm probably watching basketball 2 or 3 nights out of the week. And I like to sports bet, so I'm betting on the games. And then after that, it's normally like 9 o'clock or so. And Katrina is normally fading about that time because she gets up earlier than me. And I might stay up a little bit later and play hearts on my phone or do something like that until I start to fade. I'm like Justin, though. I don't probably fall asleep until 11 o'clock or so, but then I'm not getting up till 7, so I'm okay.
Yeah, it's when you talk to people who don't have kids and you hear them talk about like what they do at night. So it's like, oh, we get home, we decide, what, you want to watch a movie? I don't know. You want to go eat this way or whatever? It's interesting to hear that, I have both now because I have my kids half time.
Right.
So it's a very different feeling. Like when I have my
Is
kids.
it hard for you to transition back and forth, or is
it was for a while. It was strange. Like I'd miss them like crazy when they were gone at first, and then when they were coming back, I'd get anxious because I had to do all this stuff. Now it's easy because it happened. We do it every week. But it's very different. It's such a different vibe. Like when the kids are there, it's like there's shit to do all the time. When they're not there, I find things to do, if that makes any sense. So it's interesting.
Next question is from Coach Rebel. Who were your greatest mentors?
Wow.
Besides my parents,
I know. I was going to say my dad.
Yeah, my parents are of course my first mentors. The things I learned most from my parents, I would say, were honesty. Both my parents have an incredible amount of integrity. I mean, I remember my mom, she couldn't lie to anybody, which I thought was, even white lies. It was pretty funny. She'd have a tough time with that. But after that, when I got into working in this industry, my very first mentor, who later on became a good friend of mine, and at one point was my business partner, was my friend Don Cardona. He was my general manager when I was, I want to say I was 18 years old. And so he was 24. And at the time he was the youngest general manager in the company. And so we were both two young kids, but to an 18-year-old, the 24-year-old is like, an old wise man or whatever. And he taught me quite a bit. He taught me sales and communication skills. He was an incredible speaker. People definitely followed him. He cared a lot about his staff, but he also demanded a lot out of his staff. And that's how I learned my original kind of style of leading. And so he was kind of my first, big mentor, I would say, that really influenced me. Then I worked for some other individuals that I learned quite a bit from. You guys know who Dean Pappas was, right? Mm-hmm. I worked under him for a while. And he had a very different style. He wasn't as...
I love Dean.
He wasn't as nearly as aggressive as Don was. He was much more calm with his approach, much more systematic, I would say. And so I learned a lot from that as well. And that really developed me, later on. And then later on, when I had my own facility, I was 22. I had a lot of these really smart, brilliant clients that, without realizing it, became mentors to me. Some of them taught me how to be a good father, a better business person, just a better person in general. I was mentored quite a bit by some of my staff that I worked with. Just learn. And the thing about this that's interesting about this question is, I think when people think of a mentor, they think of the traditional, student mentor. Like, this is my teacher, I'm the student.
Right.
And I just learn everything I can from them, and they teach me everything. And, mentorship, I learned later on, really isn't like that. It's really about learning. I can be mentored by someone on an aspect of my life, and then the rest of them they're not really my mentor.
Right.
Yeah.
They can be an exceptional writer, for example. They could have terrible everything else, but the way they write is exceptional. And so they become my mentor without realizing it. And I think that this is, there's so many people you can learn from around you. Mm-hmm. Once you really kind of open your eyes and allow yourself to kind of let your ego suppress a little bit, because I think it's sometimes it's hard to allow yourself to learn from people, especially if that person doesn't blow you away in other areas. Like, if you don't look up to somebody in all areas, it can be hard to learn from them, because you'd be like, well, they have their life messed up. Well, okay, but they may be brilliant at this one thing.
Right.
So if you really open your eyes to that, you can really start to learn things. And the first way you learn is through imitation. That's at least how I was, especially as a younger guy. I would just copy without realizing it. I would start sounding like someone and start doing their mannerisms, or start, copying how they would do certain things. And then it kind of turned into my own thing later on. And it's just, what they say, like, imitation is the sincerest form of, or flattery or whatever.
Huh?
And so that's something that I still do to this day. I'm constantly mentored by the people I work with every single day for different things that they do. And it's just, you have to be humble to do it, though. Otherwise you'll find yourself thinking that you know everything, which is funny because you don't.
No, especially the team that we've cultivated here now.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have a lot of really, really talented people in different aspects of business. So there's a lot of mentorship that I think happens here. I really do. Without it being like you said, I don't think it's this formal, I'm mentoring you, you're mentoring me. It's that there's something to take away from all. We have a collection of leaders, I really feel like, on this team, and so there's something to pick up from everybody. So and probably more so than any other team that I've been around. I think I respect everybody in this room and outside of this room that's connected to us in Mind Pump, and I think that there's something to take away and learn from almost all of them. So incredible amount of mentorship happens within this facility now, maybe and arguably some of the most in my life if you compare to the most impactful people I've had. I'd say early on in my life, it definitely wasn't my parents and with me, so that's where we're different. I would say my youth pastor as a kid, I spent a lot of time in his office and talking to him and him helping me through a lot of the stuff that I went through as a kid with my family and my dad's death, and then the abuse stuff that my mom and my stepfather went through. And so, he definitely helped me through those early years. And I would say my most growth and where the mentorship really started to kick in for me was not until I got into like my 20s, not until I started working at 24 Hour Fitness. And like Sal's story, I had a very similar situation where I was, 20 years old, and my buddy who was 24, he had 4 years older than me, and he wasn't my buddy at the time. He was the GM, I was the FM, Mark Baker. Probably gave me, and I've talked on this podcast just recently, I shared about desired outcome, and I've also shared the story of when he cleaned the desk off and told me that to stop focusing on my weaknesses. Those two things were probably the two most powerful things ever said to me that led to a lot of my success in my mid to late 20s, and that was the teaching me to fully understand desired outcome. And then the other one was to stop worrying about my weaknesses and to focus on my strengths and to develop those and become great at them. Those two things came from him. And before that, I just didn't look at things like that. And that completely altered who I would become. So I think I'm forever indebted to him for that mentorship. And we later on became friends, and for many years pushed each other. A lot of like I feel like the men in this room do now. I think we are constantly, even if we don't realize it, stretching each other and mentoring each other by pushing each other's strengths and learning from each other. So I think now I would argue that in the last 4 years we've talked about the amount of growth that's I've had on many aspects too, not just business, but in my personal life, my relationships, my communication skills, just everything. I think a lot has come from the group that we have put together here at Mind Pump that you would probably rival any other mentor. And then, without stretching this answer out to 4 hours, I mean, I've had a lot of great clients, man. A lot of incredible relationships were built with some really, really intelligent, amazing people. And if they're listening, the reason why I'm not going to go through it is this would be forever. But they're definitely, if you were a client of mine for longer than 6 months, you probably played a very big role in developing my character today. And I'm forever grateful and thankful of that. And it's why I've loved the job so much. I think that I've gotten so much from it because of that.
Yeah, I think for me, it starts with my parents and my dad, and in particular, just in terms of the way that now I sort of have a playbook and a model of how to raise my kids, and the integrity and the leadership, that he sort of showed me now is really revealed even more so in me being a father. And that didn't really resonate till, the last few years even. So that started me out early in terms of like my mentality towards things, and that led me into too where I wanted to pursue further, like find out who I am as an individual And he was very responsible for that and was very supportive and wanted me to go somewhere far and to have sort of that coming of age kind of journey in that figuring out who you are going to be as a man. And so that was very impactful for me. And then as I got there too, there's been coaches and teachers, but my high school football coach was very impactful on me. And these were all more from a moral perspective and more from like a respect and like honor and like lots of these like virtues that, really sort of resonated with me in terms of like how I interact with people and what I try to make sure that I uphold to. And that was stressed very hard, through that whole process, and also just the teamwork aspect of it. And then even more challenging, while I ended up in Chicago, my coach there was a totally different, just the same sort of command of respect and leadership, and the way he led our team of men was amazing, both spiritually and in terms of like getting us to do perform and do things on the field. But mainly it was challenging because we sucked so bad. Like we were just god awful. And I was always used to being on a winning team and kicking ass and really having that killer mentality of I do every last thing it takes to be successful. And that side of me came more from my high school football coach. But then that sort of got challenged and pressed hard in realizing that it's not always going to work out that way, which was a really hard lesson for me. I was in a state of nothing but cold stress. Like, I could say that like every factor, like opposing force against me, like being in a new environment, have no friends, 30 below. Like I kept like adding all these things on, trying to feel sorry for myself, not getting the starting spot. Like I thought, I'm like, I'm better than all these, no, I wasn't better. There was people better than me now. And I had to actually put in the extra work just to see playing time. And we still suck too. And I'm like out on the field and we're getting slaughtered. And holy shit, was that a humbling experience. But I felt like that really helped to even build my character further. And he was an instrumental part of that, and like teaching you how to get through that and weather hardship. And so I think that, but then also too, like coming out here, I could totally echo with you guys being a big part of that in terms of like mentoring, communication and mentoring, a lot of different characteristics that I don't have. Like, I think that it's important to surround yourself with people that are really, really good at things that maybe you can recognize that are weaknesses of yours. And I think that's been huge for me too. So I definitely think that this whole process has been such a growth experience for me over the last few years. Has been accelerated just because, I've learned through that experience of stepping out of my comfort zone and being away and figuring out who I was, coming back, and then pursuing something that I suck at. What? Like that was huge for me. So yeah, I don't ever like pin it to like one person. There's so many people involved in that process, like mentorship.
Yeah, I think the key is it took me a long time to realize this, that mentors are everywhere if you're just willing to learn from them. They're all over the place in different ways. I think if you walk around not thinking that, or thinking that you're not going to learn, then you won't. But if you have that open-minded attitude, you can learn a lot from a lot of different people, young and old, people who have more experience than you, who have less experience than you, people who are seemingly not better than you at a lot of things. Oftentimes there's just something about them that you can, I used to love doing that with clients. I'd train someone and I kind of find something that I could learn from them. It made it interesting too. It made it a lot of fun. But it's crazy with podcasting. We talk about how this is such a growth, such a medium for growth. is anybody in this room the same person at all that they were when we first started this show?
Not even close.
I mean, you could listen to each episode and you'll hear it. You'll hear the progression and the change. It's pretty awesome.
We do anywhere between 50 to 70 interviews a year right now. I mean, 50 to 70, and the people that we get the opportunity to bring down here and spend time with. I mean, out of those 50 to 70, I would argue 80% of them are fucking brilliant or in their own right? In whatever aspect that they've pursued, they are very, very intelligent and something to absorb from them. And we have, we get to, not only do we get the couple hours that we're on the podcast, but many of those people we've forged relationships with afterwards, and I'm in communication with on a regular basis. So it's amazing. I had this attitude early on, and I think it's what really separated me as a trainer is I would look at anybody that was having success, and I didn't have the same attitude that I thought most of my peers had. Like most of my peers would see, like, let's say, the top guy, he just had a big month revenue wise and lots of clients. And all the other trainers, they would be in this, we'd all be in like the break room, and most of them are like nitpicking or talking shit. And I didn't think that way.
Yeah.
Like,
but he's this or she's that. Or
right. And where I was just like, I was fascinated. Like, what is he doing that I'm not doing? And I still treat all my relationships in life now. Like we had a question yesterday that you answered, Sal, and you talked about the people on IG, that all these, stupid Insta famous people that are selling shitty programs. I don't look at it like, oh my God, they disgust me, or that's so bad and they're hurting people. I don't have that attitude, whether that's true or not. I look at it and go like, I'm very fascinated. I'm like, wow, these people that actually don't even have the intelligence to put together a really good program have found a way to make a fuck ton of money and convince all these people to buy their shit. I'm intrigued by that. I'm interested.
People want to listen to them for some reason.
Yeah, right. So they're listening to them and not me. Why? Like, I want to know that. I want to know where I'm missing, because I know that I have more to give them, and I don't have the attitude of fuck them or an attitude towards them. I'm more curious about what it is that makes them tick and what makes them successful. And I think I've always approached everything like that in all my relationships. I don't get envious or jealous of successful people, even if I don't like them as people. I'm very curious to what it is about them. And then honestly, the more that I'm inclined to not like them, the more curious that I am, because I'm like, I don't even like this person. They're fucking doing really well. They must be doing something really right to look past their shitty personality or their shitty programming or whatever it is that they have a lot of success. And so I think it's reframing that attitude that I think a lot of people have. Normally it's driven through our insecurities that cause us to point the finger or say, oh, I can't, I don't want to learn. I don't like the way they do this part of their life, and so there's nothing for me to take from them. Like, no, like they've gotten here and they've made it this far in life, and they do it totally different than me. So
take that element out.
Yeah, that makes me
look at that one element.
I'm interested as fuck now.
It is. It's funny. It's like looking at you look at a musician who plays incredible music, but they're a total degenerate in the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Does that mean you can't learn how to play music from them? Of course not.
Like really hot licks.
Yeah, you just don't want to learn everything from them, And I think that's the thing. People sometimes think of a mentor as someone who is like you put them on a pedestal and they'll teach you everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're successful at business, you should take family advice from them as well.
Right.
No, not necessarily. Just look at the part of that you want to be mentored by and learn there. So look, if you go to mindpumpfree.com, you can download any one of our free guides. All of them will help you become more fit, leaner, stronger, and more awesome. Again, mindpumpfree.com. And also you can find all of our Instagram pages, our personal pages. My page is Mind Pump Sal. Adam can be found at Mind Pump Adam. And Justin, everyone's favorite, is Mind Pump Justin.
Yeah, you know it.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic, 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.